What's up, everybody? I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna, and welcome to our review of the 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz. Come have fun with us, and don't forget to subscribe. Released on August 25th, 1939, The Wizard of Oz is an MGM musical fantasy film based on L. Frank Baum's 1900 children's fantasy novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The film tells the story of young Dorothy Gale, who is swept away from a farm in Kansas to a magical land of Oz in a tornado, and embarks on a quest with her new friends to see the wizard who can help her return home to Kansas and help her friends as well.
The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
So Rick, what did you think of this movie?
It is a delightful movie. This is a very interesting watch because, of course, everybody knows The Wizard of Oz, right?
Right.
And I'd never watched this movie before, but I might as well have.
Like,
right?
You've seen so many clips, references, stuff like
Yeah,
this.
parodies, scenes like recreated in other movies. Just the songs, I knew the songs. Like, I knew everything about the movie before having ever watched it.
So you got spoiled.
In a way, you know, it's kind of like we all know who Luke Skywalker's dad is, even the people who have never watched Star Wars, right?
But it's because it's such a classic, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is such a well-known movie.
Exactly. But even with all the information already in my head beforehand, I still had a lot of fun watching this movie.
I have to say, I was very surprised by like some scenes, especially the moment she enters Oz.
And the color.
And the color, yeah, the screen becomes colored. I didn't know that would happen. I thought the whole movie is black and white.
Well, it wasn't really black and white, right? It was kind of like sepia tone.
Like that kind of shade. But I thought it would all be like that. And I feel like you knew way more about the movie than I did, I have to say. Like, I knew some elements. Obviously, I knew the story, but I didn't know all the songs, for example. But you knew them, like you sang along while we were watching, so...
Yeah, even the scenes, I was aware of what scenes were still coming up and what scenes hadn't come up yet, right? Just because, again, of the different parodies that I've seen through the years. But I didn't know exactly the order, so there was still some surprise. But what surprised me the most is, as I was watching the movie, on a technical or creative level, the way they brought that world to life, right? Having the little people and then Dorothy there, and I was wondering the whole time, like, how did they do it? Having the witch and her powers, or her at the end when she melts, right? And all these little elements, I was wondering, for a 1939 movie, this doesn't look bad, right?
Right, I'm wondering, like, how many of these were created with, like, just optical illusions? I was wondering when she first arrived in Oz and all of the people there are so happy because she killed the evil witch. And they all seem much smaller than her. But when you look at some scenes, it seems like they're a little bit in the background, like further. And she's closer to the screen and also on a step. So I wonder, like, are they really much shorter than her? Or is it like an optical illusion created with the angle they filmed in and stuff like this?
Oh, so I thought you would have picked up that information. I looked it up because I was curious, actually. And a lot of those are little people and sometimes children put in the background to, like...
Oh, okay. I actually didn't see that information. Oh, so it's good that you looked it up. One element that really surprised me that I didn't know about again is that the people, the three men on the farm, are also like the scarecrow, the lion, and the tin man.
Yeah, I knew because of course, the famous scene at the end, like, and you were there too, and you too, and you too.
Oh.
So I was aware, like, right away that all these people we would see them again in Oz.
Right, like, it's curious because I do remember having seen that scene before, the scene at the end, but I just didn't make the connection when I watched the movie. So this is a children's story, right? And so the message itself doesn't go deeper than what it tells you.
I mean, it's pretty obvious from the beginning what the message is and throughout the whole movie, right?
Exactly. But I think for me, personally, it was more interesting to watch the movie to see how they get it. Like, how do they create those scenes? How do they reenact the story? You know, a story that's basically a fantasy story.
This is a movie that oozes originality, right? And of course, a lot of it has to do with the source material, but they had to recreate it for the film, and they did a fantastical job, I think, doing that, right? This is the kind of thing that I feel like if in the 1930s or before I would have read that book, right, and cinema was starting to be a thing, I would think they can never make this into a movie, right?
Right. Yes.
And yet they did, and it looks so good.
And they did that despite many difficulties that they encountered. But I think it would be interesting for us to talk about that in the trivia section. The movie was directed by Victor Fleming, whom we've heard of before because he's also the director of Captain's Courageous and Test Pilot.
Very different movies.
Very different, yes. And it's a very interesting story how Fleming ended up being the director of this movie, because they actually changed directors 5 times through the production of this movie. 3 of them were changed during the filming, although Fleming is the one credited with being the director of this movie because he's the one who stayed there for the longest part of the filming. But the last scenes that they filmed, which was actually the beginning of the movie, were filmed under the direction of someone else. And then the first scenes that they filmed were also directed by someone else. And then all the pre-production was under the director of 2 or 3 other directors. Mm-hmm. So it was a production nightmare.
Oh, so they fired Fleming too? You said the last scene was filmed
They didn't fire him. He was moved to the project Gone with the Wind. Where the production company wanted him there specifically, like they wanted him to be the director of that movie. So they replaced him because they thought, okay, this is almost done. You did your job here. Move along.
I'm sure he's not complaining. Yeah? What a resume.
Right, yeah. And the movie stars Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale. What did you think of her performance?
I thought she was great, right? And it's as much for her and for a lot of the characters actually a singing performance as it is an acting performance.
Actually, when she got cast for the role, she was up against every singing actress in Hollywood at the time. It wasn't an easy role for her to land, but she did.
She did, and I think she did a great job with the role doing it, right?
Yeah,
she's at the center of the movie, her and the 3 friends that accompany her, but mainly her, and she's great.
I think it really helped her, bring Dorothy to life. The fact that she had that look of surprise on her face pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like with the big eyes, like the curious face.
Like the audience, right?
Yeah.
She's new to us like we are.
Exactly.
And so everything is magical, everything is fantastical, and you have to be surprised. Like, oh, what's happening here? What's a witch? Oh, I thought witches were bad.
That's nice, I think, from the perspective of a children's movie or a children's story, that it's trying to break some stereotypes about witches,
Yeah.
but also about
those
people.
witch stereotypes, right?
But I think what you're left with is more the idea that just because you think a certain group of people is bad, that can't be true,
Well, also a lot of the movie is not everything is what it seems, right? Don't judge a book by its cover.
The scarecrow is not actually stupid. He's just afraid to use his knowledge, That's what you learn by the end.
Yeah, they're not confident in their own abilities
Exactly.
that they all had, right?
Exactly.
He had a heart, he had a brain, and he had courage, right?
Right.
I guess, in a way, this is the origin of the meme, right? The treasure was with you all along, or whatever.
Yeah.
The real treasure is the friends we made along the way. This is the movie, right?
I thought that this was from this movie, actually.
I mean, they don't say it, but that's the essence of the movie, right?
Exactly.
What you were seeking was there all along.
Right. The movie also stars Frank Morgan as Professor Marvel, the Gatekeeper, the carriage driver, the guard, and the Wizard of Oz. So
the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz, whom we know of already from The Great Ziegfeld and Naughty Marietta. What did you think of his performance?
I thought it was great too, right? He's kind of a shady character, right?
Yeah.
You're not very sure of where to stand towards kind of his action, right? His deceivedness, because he deceives everybody.
Right.
Whether it's in the real world or in Oz. But at the same time, deep down, you kind of feel like he's a nice guy, right?
I feel like at the end of it, he tells you something that is meaningful and that is true. Like when he first meets Dorothy, and you obviously understand what his trade is actually. But in the end, he just sends her home. He tells her whatever he needs to tell her to make her understand that she needs to go home.
Even though he has to lie to her in order to convince her.
Yeah, exactly. And also, as the wizard, at the very end when he actually just makes the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion understand that they already had what they wanted, and just like gave them a representation of that, kind of like a reminder, like, oh, you have a diploma, that means you're smart.
But using examples, right? Like where I come from, there's a lot of people who claim to have brain and are not that much better than you. The difference is they have a diploma. Here's your diploma, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and so I feel like, that makes you not be so angry with the fact that all he did throughout the rest of the movie was just deceive everyone. The movie also stars Ray Bolger as Hank and the Scarecrow, whom we've seen before in The Great Ziegfeld, Jack Haley as Hickory and the Tin Woodman, whom we've seen before in Alexander's Ragtime Band, and Burt Lahr as Zeke and the Cowardly Lion. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about the three of them as a group, because they're a group. They're together. So what did you think of, the representations of these characters in the movie?
I think that if I was the Tin Man and the Lion, I'd kind of be hurt at the end when Dorothy's like, and you, Scarecrow, I'll miss you most of all.
So there's something interesting there. That line is kind of left there from a previous version of the script, in which when Dorothy returns to Kansas, there are hints at a romance developing between her and Hank. But eventually they decided to drop that whole storyline, but that line at the end when she parts with the Scarecrow was left from that original idea.
Romance story would have been weird here.
It would have been so weird, especially because I don't know, I wouldn't have thought about it because they don't seem to be close in age at all. All three of them seem to be much older, like adults, while Dorothy's
like a
teenager. Yeah.
But, I mean, I gotta agree with Dorothy here. The Scarecrow was the best one for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like he also had the most singing parts. No, I think the Lion did too. He had a solo towards the end.
But it's also because they meet the Scarecrow first, right? So he starts singing before. The Lion was also pretty great. I think it's nice, like the way he plays it, right? As the cowardly lion. And
but like he tries to be brave.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's pretty funny. I like all three of them. There's a reason why they're considered like classic side characters, right?
Right. The movie also stars Margaret Hamilton as Miss Almira Glutch and the Wicked Witch of the West.
I mean, it was so obvious she was the witch, even if you don't know that all the characters doubles inside of us.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's when I realized, because she's the first one that we see, right? Like, we see her when Dorothy starts to, like, slip away into the dream.
Yeah.
We see her outside the window on the bicycle, and then right away we see the witch, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna happen. It's gonna be the same characters. That's when I realized it. And the last character that we're gonna talk about, Toto, is played by Terry. Yes, Terry is an actor dog, actually an actress dog, with a lengthy career of Hollywood movies. Yes.
First time we see Terry for these movies.
Yes, that is true.
Where's the Academy Award for Best Dog?
Yeah, they still don't have those,
They still don't have those.
They should. I mean, there are so many movies involving animals.
Yeah. Get with the time.
As I have mentioned before, the production of this movie was not an easy ride. So first off, the producer, Marvin Leroy, asked many writers to submit their version of the story for the movie. Not all of them were great. There were some terrible changes that some of them suggested, like eliminating the fantasy part completely.
Okay.
Luckily, they didn't go with that. And in the end, they went with actually a combination of the different scripts that were submitted by a few different writers, not all of which were credited. I guess they could do that back then, Yeah,
I don't know about
today
that.
It doesn't work anymore. Like, if they only took one
small
idea,
still credited,
yeah, today you would still credit it. Another issue that the production had, in addition to, as I have mentioned, changing the director five times, they also had to replace the original actor who played the Tin Man, because the original actor developed a severe allergy to the aluminum makeup that he had to wear. So he couldn't continue playing the role. He was replaced in all of the scenes. His voice, however, can still be heard in some of the songs.
Oh.
They were too lazy to re-record
And he also gets no credit.
No credit. Of course not. The special effects we mentioned before were very impressive, but they were very expensive and in some cases dangerous, actually. So first off, the tornado was recreated on a set with a sheer soft fabric that was hung between the ceiling and the floor on two mobile parts that when they would move, they would create this like, you know, flowing image of a tornado. And the house was also recreated on the set. It was a very expensive scene to film, however. Another interesting element, the scarecrow and the lion's masks were made of foam latex, created by the makeup artist Jake Dawn. Dawn was one of the first Hollywood makeup artists to use this technique in creating masks for movies. And the actor who played the scarecrow was left with permanent lines visible on his face
from the mask?
From the masks, because they had to apply it and remove it every day. And the process of removing it was very slow and somewhat dangerous. So he was left with some lines on his face and neck.
I feel like a lot of people would have been sued for this movie.
Oh yes, and we are not done yet. So apparently Hamilton, the actress playing the Wicked Witch of the West, got severe burns to her face and hands due to some fire special effects from the time when she disappears into the smoke. Severe burns. So that sounds like, oh, so bad.
I hope they filmed that last, because if it was me, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Okay, goodbye.
No,
she kept going? Wow.
Yeah, like very dedicated people. But yeah, very dangerous production. Difficult also. I want to say it paid off, but I don't think that
that's their opinion.
And I don't think it's a good thing. Keep pushing through such issues where you put people's health at risk for a production, no matter how good it is.
Those were the times, right? We remember when we were talking about the adventures of Robin Hood, and they would just shoot people with a bow and arrow, and pay them more to get shot.
Despite its production issues, the film was very popular and it was very much appreciated at Hollywood. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards. First off, it was nominated for Best Picture, which is why we have watched it and we are reviewing it right now. Also nominated for Best Music Original Song for Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg for the song Over the Rainbow, which is, I think, not only the most popular song of the movie, but one of the most popular songs ever.
Yeah, but because of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And this is an award that they won. Rightfully so, I would say.
Yeah.
Also nominated for Best Music Original Score for Herbert Stothart, which it also won. Nominated for Best Cinematography Color for Harold Rossen. Best Art Direction for Cedric Gibbons and William A. Horning. And Best Effects, Special Effects for A. Arnold Gillespie and Douglas Shearer.
I'm surprised no win for special effects here.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, so is there anything else that you would like to talk about in regards to this movie?
So one thing we haven't talked about much, right? This is a musical, so there is a lot of songs. What did you think of the songs?
First of all, I find them so memorable. I didn't know all the songs before. I knew a lot of them. I think the most known ones I've heard them before, but I feel like all of them are so easy to like sing along.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
You remember them, and I think that makes a lot of the movie. You know,
well, a musical lives or die by its songs, right? Regardless of the story, which here I think it's a good story too. But even movies with musical with questionable stories, if there are great songs, it's still like imprints in your mind, right?
Right.
And here the
it's
songs
like you
are
find
great.
yourself years later humming the song.
And here they had both great songs and a great story. So
yeah, I agree. So that being said, would you recommend this movie?
Yes, I would. For the 2 people watching this who haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, go watch it.
Well, I mean, we hadn't seen it before.
We hadn't seen it before,
right?
Yes, that's true.
I'm guessing a lot of you maybe also know the movie without having seen it, but I think it's definitely worth to watch it.
Yeah.
And with that, I think it is now time for us to move on to the ranking. For those of you who don't know yet, every year we are ranking all the movies nominated for Best Picture for that respective year. Right now we are at the year 1939, and our ranking as of now is at number 8 Ninochka, at number 7 Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, at number 6 Goodbye Mr. Chips, at number 5 Dark Victory, at number 4 Stagecoach, at number 3 Love Affair, at number 2 Wuthering Heights, and at number 1 Of Mice and Men. Rick, where would you put The Wizard of Oz on this list?
The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. I would put the movie at number 3.
Yes, I completely agree. That's what I was going for.
Yeah. So I mean, again, this is a great movie, right? Good story, wonderful like technicalities, like special effects, great songs. There's, however, a level of complexity in the characters of Wuthering Heights and in the themes of Mice and Men that this movie doesn't come close to, right?
Right, because I mean, in the end, you have to think that this is
a children's
story.
Yeah.
And while wonderfully executed, yes, I feel like we do tend to put higher movies that have more complex elements in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree though. Number 3 it is. Which makes our new ranking. At number 9, Ninochka. At number 8, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. At number 7, Goodbye Mr. Chips. At number 6, Dark Victory. At number 5, Stagecoach. At number 4, Love Affair. At number 3, The Wizard of Oz. At number 2, Wuthering Heights. And at number 1, Of Mice and Men. And if, unlike us, you have already watched The Wizard of Oz, you can let us know what you thought about it by commenting in the comment section below, but also by ranking it on our website. The link is in the description box below. We have watched this movie as part of our bucket list goal to watch every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to 2028. As of now, we have watched 106 movies as part of that list. And the next movie that we're gonna be watching is Gone with the Wind, the winner of 1939. And if you want to follow us through this goal, you can go ahead and watch the movie and come back for our next review. But if you don't want to miss that review, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel right now so that you don't miss our next video. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Also, please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget, if you yourself have a goal or a dream that you'd like to realize, take that first step.
Bye!